Hello, hello. This is Madeline. Okay, so not the usual intro that you get, but there are a couple of things that I wanted to talk about before we get into this episode. First and foremost, I think Areli hit the record with longest conversation that I've had on this podcast since the beginning of the podcast. And it was impressive and amazing. And we could have kept going longer if it just wasn't for needing to be cognizant of the time for everybody. But two, I also want to share that we did experience a couple of technical hiccups while we were recording. So there will be a couple of points where there's a little bit of an abrupt shift and change in the conversation. We acknowledge it during the conversation. We laugh about it. We talk about it. And you know what? It's all a beautiful, wonderful learning experience for both of us, but for me in being prepared for different things when I am recording with guests. So just a heads up that happens in here too. But I hope that you enjoy this episode, and here we go. Hello and welcome. My name is Madeline Longoria Garcia, and these are our other stories. Today on the podcast, we have Areli Barrera Grodzki, who is the co-founder of Little Waves Coffee Roasters, and as mentioned in her intro form, hija de su madre, which you said was like a little, you were feeling playful and kind of like joking in that, but I would love, well, first of all, welcome. I would love for you to like share with us what that little thought process was with that.
I was just thinking about my mom heavily during that moment. And I feel like hija de tu madre is usually like something you say in a moment where like someone's in trouble or like I don't know, when like you're trying to like put somebody down or something. But in that moment I was like, yeah, I am my mother's daughter proudly.
Yeah. No, I love it. And so before we started recording, I mean, my first question to you was just like, how are you doing? And you took this pause and kind of laughed and just like, whoa, okay. And I think personally, I appreciate that because I think it's so, we default to just being like, oh, I'm good. How are you? Right? Like, not actually thinking about the question that was just asked.
Yeah.
And so, what is, I mean, I guess, yeah, I was like, yeah, chaos happens. Like, and it's okay if things feel a little chaotic, but yeah, I guess, like, how are things going for you?
I feel like on one hand things are great. Like things are
Mhm.
moving. There's a lot of progress happening and in different facets of life and business. And at the same time, we're living in this world and so much chaos around us. And
Mhm.
I think I'm such an empath, and I think I take that in
Mhm.
and don't recognize that I'm carrying it until it's all coming down at once. Um,
Yeah.
I'm also like about to leave town, and I was talking to my prima who's in town right now. One of our team members just left on this like month-long trip to visit her family in Thailand, and
Wow.
the Women Powered Coffee Summit is happening in Mexico in
Right.
San Cristóbal
Mhm.
de las Casas. Um, and so I wanted to go to that, but it's also like overlapped with the time that this team member's away. And so like I have this like guilt of like leaving the team, you know? So like
Yeah.
I'm feeling the stress of, and I really do believe that that's like some of that like immigrant mentality and like that immigrant hustle. And like even though I'm like the co-founder, the leader, like I still very much feel like I'm a doer more than a leader.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I don't know, it's just like the stress of like I know that they're so capable and like they can do it without me, and yet I still have this like this guilt like hovering over me of like I'm leaving, and like it's for
Yeah.
good reasons. I'm like gonna go visit some of our producing partners in Chiapas, and then also like go
Cool.
to the summit. But yeah, I'm just like trying
Yeah.
to leave everything as like neatly like tied up as possible so that everyone is okay.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's this thing, like this guilt of, oh, I'm leaving, and sure, maybe it's still work related, but I'm doing this fun thing that's work related and leaving a team behind to do the regular day-to-day ops and not, going on this work trip. And because I can relate to that of I always felt like I'm like a I lead by example versus saying, or like through, yeah, it's just like, okay, leading through example. And so struggling with that balance of, well, I want to lead and show you that I'm here and I'm dedicated and committed. And also, these are the things I need to do. And this is also balanced with like realizing when we are maybe taking in too much
Mhm.
and setting aside that time too to be like, no, I need to go off and like enjoy something else. Change of scenery,
Yeah.
coming back maybe in a better state of mind is also only going to be helpful for the people around me and the people who I am leading in my team.
Yeah, I feel like I think this is the part of like leadership that I still like struggle with in terms
Yeah.
of, yeah, it's internal work, right? It's internal work
Yeah.
feeling like, ugh, I don't want to teach my team that they need me, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, and yet like I have this overbearing feeling of feeling the guilt of like not being there. But I also like true leadership is like teaching them how to like do it on their own and like empowering them to like make decisions and like run the ship essentially. um
Yeah.
and they do that, like they don't need me. It's just my own stuff. It's funny because our department head in the roastery is also like Mexicana, and
Mm-hmm.
she got really sick, and like she had to stay out of work, and she ended up coming in like
Mm-hmm.
a day before she needed to come in because she also felt that. And I was like, oh no, am I teaching her that, or is that just like
Right.
immigrant mentality thing? I was like, oh my god, when she told me that, I was like, oh, this resonates so much. I'm like, no, is this a mirror to my own leadership skills, or is this like something that we collectively need to work on?
Yeah, I mean, and it could be both, it could be both. And I certainly relate to that in both angles and both sides. And like, yeah, it's hard, but like you said, it is the inner work journey that needs to happen. And then with that, recognizing too that like the professional development work is tied to the personal development work, and how all of that, it's all interconnected, and it's going to come out in how we run a business, how we show up as an employee, how we show up in our personal lives with all of our relationships and the things that we do. And that's something that it's a continuous journey, right? Like nobody's done all of the professional development work that there is to do, or all of the personal development work that there is to do. Like, no, it is continuous. And I think that, like, especially as somebody who runs their own business, like, that is something that business owners and entrepreneurs have to like face that fact of like, this is continuously, it's going to be something that I'm continuously working on because there's always going to be something else that comes up.
Yeah, but that makes work more fun because it's not stagnant. It's constant.
Right.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
there's always progress to be made within yourself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I always say that like coffee to me has been like a mirror, right? To like
Mm,
to yourself, how you show up, what you're like what are the things you need to work on and like heal, and
hmm.
like where are you shining, and like what are your strengths, and how do you use those to like support others.
Yeah. And I mean, okay, so coffee, Little Waves Coffee Roasters. This is how we know each other.
Yeah.
We first met, and you just posted about this on the company Instagram account. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it's been 6 years since that, but I went to an event, a coffee tasting that you were running at a cafe in Seattle. It was the oh my gosh, the La Marzocco. What was the official name of it?
Yeah, I think it was like, I think it was the La Marzocco Cafe at KEXP or something like that.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
Which is now rebranded different. It's managed under a different company now, but they used to do these like residency programs essentially for different coffee roasters around the nation. And I just happened to be in Seattle during your residency and during this time where you were actually there. You and a few of your team members were there running this tasting. I show up, I had heard of your company before, didn't really know much about it, and just like met you and your husband and a couple of your team members. And I was like, wow, these are wonderful people. And I remember you are the reason why I own anything by Wasi Clothing, because you were wearing those Frida pants. And I was like, where the hell are those from? I need a pair. And yeah, I mean, that was 6 years ago,
yeah.
almost to the day, a little bit over 6 years ago now. And that's crazy. I mean, but this is how we met. And how long had your company, like, how old is your company at this point?
So the roasting side, Little Waves, started in 2017.
Okay.
But Leon and I had, started our business, Cocoa Cinnamon, in 2010, in my mom's
Okay.
kitchen. Yeah.
Wow.
But we moved to Durham in 2011 and then started in Durham. The true, not the true concept, but like we started slowly building up to our vision of what we wanted to do
Hmm.
in Durham. We're like three coffee shops now in Durham, and then the third coffee shop houses the roastery. And we're working right now on building out a roastery like space just for us
Yeah.
because we're
Yeah.
taking over the cafe in a way that's just like it feels so cluttered, and I think the cafe will be happy when they have their space back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that was pretty early on then
yeah,
into the conception of Little Waves coffee
yeah,
roasters. Was that one of your first times like showcasing your coffees on the
yeah,
West Coast? Or yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because that was in 2019. So yeah, we applied for the residency like on Valentine's Day, like Leon and I. That was our hot date.
Cute. I love
Really
that.
filling out the application. Um, and we just like, what do we have to lose? If we don't get it, we don't get it, whatever. Um, but it was a lot of work. Like once we got it, it was a lot of work to prep for it. And of
Mm,
course, like when Leon and I do things, it's never like simple. It was like we had a different menu every day or every week.
yeah.
Um, so I stayed there the whole residency because of that. Like I didn't want to put again that work on their team. I was like, we want to showcase like what we do, and the only way to do that is to like change the menu every week. um,
And it was 4 weeks?
yeah, it was 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is like it was like you said like during this month, so it was like during Hispanic or like Latina like Heritage Month.
Yeah.
So we like decked out the space with like papel picado.
Yeah.
We put the oilcloth on their like seating tables. I think they kept them.
Nice.
um, yeah, it was fun to do like a little takeover. And I was really amazed by their team too because they were doing that every month. Like they were changing different roasters. They had to learn
Hmm.
their approach to coffee like every single month and learn new menus, new recipes, everything. I was just,
Everything.
yeah,
And
I was
yeah.
very grateful and amazed and really grateful that our team was able to like come experience that with us. Uh,
Yeah.
but it was a lot of work. I just remember like the stress of like getting everything together before we left, similar to like what I'm feeling now, but like times 100. And just like when we got there and like it was set up, we were like looking at it and I just like bursted into tears. Like I was like, I don't know how
Yeah.
much of this is just like relief and like release or like tears of joy, tears of something. I was just like so
It
saturated with
happened.
emotion. Yeah,
Yeah. It came together. It's here. We're here and it's happening.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that space was very impressive. And like you said, the team there, like super impressive to be just constantly rolling with all of these changes and the takeovers. And I remember because I had been to a couple of different like roasters residencies at that cafe because they did it for a few years. And it was always nice to see kind of like the vibe change, for each one. And I remember yours and how just, again, like how colorful it was. I feel like your personal identity really coming through in that. And that's what I get from the brand itself. And that also, I saw that you just announced this whole menu, like the new menu that came out in your cafes for this season too. And I just see this intentional effort of not just letting your voice come through, but like the voices of your team and your employees come through. And like, how can we highlight who they are through this company and through the business and allow them to participate in it versus like, oh, this is where I work.
yeah,
And I get that from your brand, and I got that as soon as I walked in to that cafe 6 years ago. And for me personally, as somebody who is also Mexican, like it feels so welcoming, right? And it feels immediately just like warm and familiar, and that's not what very many cafe spaces necessarily feel like. I
yeah,
think for a lot of not just Latinas, but like people of color in general, right? Like a lot of cafe spaces don't feel like they are made with us in mind.
yeah,
And walking into that, I was like, oh, this feels fun. This feels comfortable. This feels like, yeah, a space that I vibe with. And I've never had the opportunity to like go to one of your actual cafes in North Carolina, but I see that even in the photos, that I can see online.
yeah. We one of the things we also did was our close friend David, who's also an artist. We have a mural that like covers our roastery like upper cabinet, that was made by uh, also a Mexican artist. His name's Cornelio Campos, and we had them like print the mural onto like panels so that we could like kind of mimic that upper cabinet at the space as well.
Mm,
But I feel like I remember having like multiple conversations in Seattle from people who like would often go to that cafe and be like, this is the first time I feel represented, and like I don't
hmm
know. It felt really nice to I don't know. I feel like Seattle for some reason like kind of has like sister city vibes to Durham in
Okay.
some way. I'm not really sure why, but like I felt really connected to Seattle. I don't know if it's like the evergreen like there's just like a magic there, and it's probably because of the indigenous people that exist
Mm,
there,
hmm
and like I grew up in Cherokee, and I just feel like, the Great Smoky Mountains, very different from the Pacific Northwest, but I don't know. There was just, I felt like a link and I felt a connection to the land
mm,
itself. So it was just interesting to experience Seattle in that way through that lens, and to be able to connect with people and like be able to share what we're doing in this small city in Durham, with
yeah.
a much bigger city. But yeah, we also had like a little altar space too. which we had an altar space in our third location as well. But like once the pandemic hit, like the roastery kind of blew up, and we had to
Mm-hmm.
like take over a lot of the cafe space to like have materials for shipping and all that stuff.
Sure.
And we had to sacrifice the halter space. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to like slowly bring that back in the new space, because I think it's something that's really important to me is like honoring ancestors and just like having a space to ground yourself, like especially in
Mm-hmm.
the day to day, like just to have like
Mm-hmm.
a visual reminder of like ancestors are here, and also like slow down, like it's okay, like
Yeah.
like
Pause for
touchable.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, a few things you said there. I've never been to North Carolina or that part of the world. I've been to the Northeast before. I'm really bad at the geography in the Northeast, so I don't know the furthest south I've been, but I've been to like, Boston, DC, Baltimore, and that whole area, New York. But I've never been a little bit further south. A couple of things here. I know you also grew up in a couple of different areas.
Mhm.
So I'm curious if you can share a little bit of what is North Carolina like? I mean, you're talking about this, you feel like there was some sort of like thread of connection between the Northwest, Seattle, and Durham. For somebody who has never been to Durham or North Carolina, I'm curious like what that feels like or what that connection feels like. And then also for you, what it was like to transition into living there
Mhm.
when you were a kid.
Oh, yeah. North Carolina is pretty big. It's
Hmm.
from Cherokee to like the Outer Banks, it's like a 10-hour drive.
Okay.
But Cherokee also isn't like the furthest uh, west point of North Carolina. So like it could probably even be longer than that. Um,
Yeah.
I say that because I feel like North Carolina is so many things. Like what I know of North Carolina is the Great Smoky Mountains, which I feel like are
Mm.
very energetically charged, um,
Hmm.
and beautiful, and like I don't know. My Every time I go visit my mom, she still lives in that area. She's like, ay, no me canso de ver la naturaleza. Like, I'm so glad we moved here. I never get tired of seeing nature. And like, she
Yeah.
could literally go outside her door and like sit and like look at these beautiful, lush mountains like in front of her.
Hmm.
And then you have Central Carolina, which is like, I guess, the Piedmont area, and it's a little bit more flat. And Durham actually was created out of tobacco money.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of like tobacco and like pig farms around this area, and then you have the Eastern Carolina, which is coastal, and there's this like I don't know. I love that you have mountains and like the beach. Like
Hmm.
you can
Hmm.
have the best of both worlds in North Carolina. Culturally, it's super rich. There's a lot of like musicians coming out of North Carolina. Uh,
Yeah. I hope it stays. I mean, that's something, yeah. There are a lot of places where I'm like, oh, this place kind of like lost its soul a little bit. It's changed so much. And the places where you don't, where you're like, oh, this still feels like it has its essence. You're like, great, keep it, like hold on to that. All right, folks, we had a little bit of a tech thing pop up, but we're back and recording and to try to just like go back into our conversation. But before that happened, Areli, you were describing to us like growing up in the forest and it's okay. Life is happening, Life is happening and shit happens and it's fine. We're not We're not perfect, so notifications, man. Um, and as you said, also like the reflection, the laptop chaos being the reflection of like what's going on inside. Like, yeah, I relate to that for sure. Um, so funny. So yeah, North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina. Yeah, I feel like I went from two very different settings to North Carolina being a little bit of a shock to my 10-year-old self, to
Yeah.
just being in love with it and like honestly not really seeing myself thriving in like cities.
Mm,
I love cities. I love visiting them. I love the density. I love walking. But to exist in city mode is just not for me. And I think
yeah.
that's because of growing up in the mountains. And,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, like culturally, the mountains are a trip for like looking at it now, like in hindsight, like kind of observing just the dynamics of um like my dad moved us there because he also is an entrepreneur and
Mm,
he's one of 10 children and like the second to oldest, and
mm-hmm.
he helped all of his siblings like open up craft shops like selling Mexican textiles and leathered goods, and
Wow.
that's like what he saw in Cherokee was like it was such a touristy area, and he saw an opportunity to like open up craft shops there.
Hmm.
So that was an experience of like I think it was a normal experience in a sense because it was like all I knew growing up was like this is what my dad does, and like Cherokee like felt fun as a kid in the sense that like in 1995 is when we moved there, and um I think during that time like the tourist season was like very high and very booming, and I can't remember what year it was, but like I think gas prices went really high, and then I
Mm-hmm.
started seeing a dip in tourism, and it just like it kind of never really recovered, and it
Right.
never really like got back to what I remember as like a 10-year old, and even like 9 and 8-year old because we would go visit like in the summertime.
Did your family have a connection to Cherokee? Like people
So
or other family members who were there?
So my dad had a brother who lived in Sevierville. And so he
Okay.
would travel from San Antonio to Sevierville to like take him textiles and like
Okay.
my dad's I think his favorite thing to do as an entrepreneur was wholesale. And I think mostly because he got to like travel a lot. Like he
Mm-hmm.
would travel from Tijuana to like Canada, and he would travel to the US, and would set up at like ferias. Yeah, so it was during that time it was also really fun because like the ferias also had like a lot of that like you would find like a bunch of vendors, and you had like the like the fair vibe, right? So like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all the games for the kids, and then
Yeah.
like performers.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's also like the ferias that don't have all of that. But that
Hmm.
that was kind of like my dad's like bread and butter, and he loved doing wholesale, and so he would do that. Like he would travel to Sevierville to like supply my uncle, and then he would cross the mountains into Cherokee, and there was another Mexican man there who had a
Hmm.
shop, and so he would supply him, and then that's when he kind of started seeing like the possibilities of opening up
Mm-hmm.
in Cherokee. Yeah, it was interesting. In Cherokee, like you can't own land unless you're Cherokee.
Okay.
So he was leasing like all the stores and stuff. But he was doing like really well for himself. And then it was so when we moved to the States, it was just me and my mom, my dad, Valeria, who's 11 years older than me, and my brother, who's 13 years older than me. Claudia, who's the oldest, she's 15 years older than me, and she stayed in Tijuana because she got
Mm-hmm.
married and had kids. But then they ended up like moving to Cherokee. And so then like
Hmm.
all my siblings ended up moving to Cherokee eventually. When
Wow.
we moved from San Antonio to North Carolina, my other sister like didn't want to leave, and so she ended up just like getting married and staying. And then eventually they both moved to Cherokee. So my dad kind of like created something that was almost like legacy building in a way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he was able to like start my sisters up with their own shops. And so, yeah, that's kind of like how we made our living growing up. And I was going to like Cherokee Elementary, Cherokee High School. And so I did become like a part of the community there. And yeah, again, it like felt very normal. But our
Mm-hmm.
craft shops, like I would work them with my mom,
Mm-hmm.
and like the people who would come into the craft shops were like a lot of like tourists that are coming from like nearby,
Sure.
and also from like Florida and like maybe sometimes like upstate, but it was always predominantly like white folks, um,
Mm-hmm.
and also like white folks who were looking for like rebel flags and like, like had a little twang in their like accent,
Yeah.
and to the point where sometimes like they would say something and I would literally like stare at them like my brain is working hard to like make sense of the noises that came out of their mouth, and I'd be like, I am so sorry, like can you please repeat that, and they repeat it and I'm
Yeah.
still like nothing. And
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
so embarrassed because I'm like, I don't know if this is like ESL, like this like accent is thick, like I
Yeah.
really can't understand them. And so it's just like sometimes created some like tension. We had some people like say like, speak English, like when me and my mom would talk to each other. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you're in Cherokee, like back off. Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
of course I didn't say that, but like I don't know, it would always like shock me, like I would
Mm-hmm.
always just kind of be like what's happening right now? I don't even know how to react to this. I don't really even know what to say to that. I was also like a
Yeah.
teenager, like didn't really know how to cope with like people being dicks, like it
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
like a feeling of like wow, you're really going out of your way to be like rude and disrespectful,
Rude.
and like
Yeah.
what the hell, like what are you gaining from
Yeah.
this, like what power trip are you on right now? But I don't know, just like that whole dynamic of like catering to this clientele base while being an immigrant, and being
Mm-hmm.
like different language speakers in a Cherokee, like in an indigenous land. It's a boundary. They call it a reservation, but it's not really a reservation because they own their land. Like they
Yeah.
bought their land from the government, and it has its history. And I don't know, it's just like the layers upon layers upon
Yeah.
layers on top of like the beauty and like the magical elements of existing in the mountains that hold so much history as well. And
Mm-hmm.
just like digging into like indigenous like history and culture, and like thinking about like all the unseens that we know exist. But I don't know, like I think when tourists come to Cherokee, they expect to see like Hollywood style, like Cherokee
Sure.
people, right? And for a little bit, like there was an era in Cherokee when that was catered to. Like there would
Mm-hmm.
be people standing
Play into
outside
it.
who, yeah, playing into that like Hollywood stereotype. And then slowly but surely, like when I was away at Chapel Hill and I came back in 2009, I feel like a lot of people from my generation who had graduated from high school, like had gone to college and like came back, like felt this like energetic shift to want to bring their culture back to life and like breathe
Mm-hmm.
new energy into Cherokee, which was is really beautiful to see. But I feel deeply connected to that community. My best friends all live there, like they're all Cherokee, and I was just there recently, and one of the things that I was reminded of was just sitting around the table and telling stories about ghosts and like things that happen in real life. I was talking
Yeah.
about my dad started my dad and my mom are like much older. My mom was 36 when she had me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think she's like 76, almost
Okay.
76. And
Yeah.
my dad just turned 80. So, you know, it's like it's important to go visit them. And like I've noticed too that like every time I go visit now, like my dad will start telling me like stories about his mother and his grandfather.
Mm,
Like these are stories that I had never
yeah.
heard before. It's like
Yeah.
they're starting to like come up for him, like he's starting to reminisce. And like
Yeah.
I don't know, like
Are
he's
you recording that? I mean, I just like beautiful what a beautiful thing,
yeah,
those stories and those memories. And
it's
like,
a gift, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, as soon as he starts talking to me, I just press record on my phone because
nice.
I'm like, whether it captures it perfectly or not, I'm like,
Sure.
and also like I think repeating it to like my niece and nephew like helps me also
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Totally.
memorize what he's telling me. But like everything that he was telling me just reminded me of like a Gabriel Garcia Marquez book. I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my God. I'm like, you're literally saying all these things and it sounds like magic realism. I'm like, and that's the thing about magic realism is that it's a term that was put upon our people's like novels and language and stories by European
Yep.
thinkers.
Yep.
And for them, it's like, well, I mean, it might seem like magic realism, but this is just our reality.
Right.
And like, that's what I was reminded of is like,
Yeah.
you know, as he was telling me these stories of his grandfather and like his grandmother and just the way that like day-to-day life, la vida cotidiana in his small town in Nayarit, I was just in awe. And like, yeah, I felt so grateful for that moment and for the fact that he is feeling like it's like bubbling up in him that he has to
Mm-hmm.
get it out. And
Yeah.
I feel like that happens a lot, you know, as you get older. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, and some people don't though. Some people don't ever share
true.
that stuff, which is like, that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope you're recording this because it's something that, and through this podcast, I'm like, please talk to your elders, like ask them questions, have these conversations, like listen to them when they're telling you these stories and they're sharing these memories because once they're gone, they're gone,
Yeah.
and there is no opportunity to try to like recapture those memories and those family stories. And it's something that I recognize within my own family that we haven't done that with some people in our family with certain generations. And now being like, okay, when I am around an elder in my family, let's talk. Like, I want to learn, I want to know, yeah, just like what you remember, and like write it down or record it in some way. And I feel, I mean, yeah, that magic realism, right? That is just the style of storytelling, really, that is rooted in indigenous cultures everywhere, like everywhere. I don't, yeah, it's something that like, oh wait, through colonization has been kind of given this title of that. I think maybe somehow weakens its groundedness in reality of like what actually happened, right? By calling it like magic realism. But it is just like, no, these are stories. These are our stories. This is the way that we view the world also. So of course it's going to impact the language we use and how we describe things. And I think that's, yeah, what a gift. And
Yeah. I feel like that is something that I miss a lot. In Durham, I feel moving to Durham made me feel like a fish out of water in,
mm,
in that like I really do miss that like energetic like current that exists in Cherokee, and not just Cherokee but like the Great Smoky Mountains.
mm-hmm,
It made me realize like how much it had an impact on me without like recognizing it living there, because you're just existing in that, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
becomes
just
your
living it.
baseline. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not having it like made me realize like how much, in a way, it's like such a blessing too, because it made me realize how much like what work I needed and what I was missing. Like,
Mhm.
yeah,
I mean, it's that whole concept of like you don't really know what you have until
it's
you don't
gone.
have it anymore, until it's gone. Yeah. And I grew up in I grew up total opposite, huge city, Los Angeles, like
Oh yeah.
super, super, just like huge, huge city. And it was that, like, it took me leaving to appreciate having grown up there. And it made me realize, like, how lucky I was to have grown up in a place that was so like diverse, but in every definition of that word, right? Like literally encountering people of all walks of life. I never drove growing up in LA. And so when I was in high school, I was always taking public transit home or to friends' houses or wherever I was going. And you encounter everybody
Yeah.
on that too. And it's like, and even taking the metro through different parts of Los Angeles, it's like I mean, there's the wealthier parts and there's the not wealthy parts, and that exposure. And when I left and met people who had never experienced people who were different from themselves, I was like, whoa, okay, what a gift it was to have grown up in that. And
Yeah.
I can see that too, like growing up in this beautiful countryside, and still like you had this diverse range of childhoods too. Tijuana is not a small city. Like also very busy, very um there's a lot going on there. And San Antonio too, like very busy city. And then the mountains. And I can, from everything you've shared, I can understand this like sense of familiarity with the Pacific Northwest too, and how you felt that kind of connection. Because I lived in Tacoma, Washington. I went to school there. And then now I live in Portland. And there is this thing about, I mean, all of the cities in the Pacific Northwest, like you're so close to the mountains and the forest, and you're so close to the ocean and the water. And there is still a very present like indigenous culture too. Like the tribes here are very present. I remember going to school and being like, oh, the town names and the city names and like the word street names and all of this stuff, and being like, oh, okay, wow, this is still very much present here, which is awesome. And yeah, there's also, I think, like these different layers of how communities have come together and how spaces have evolved. Seattle's a really interesting city too. It was somewhere that I always thought, ever since I graduated from college, I thought like I'm going to end up in Seattle, and I no longer have any desire to live there. Um because it's changed a lot. Like that city has changed so much, and it's not really, I haven't been there in several years, so maybe I will feel differently the next time I visit, but I remember the last couple of times I was there, I was just like, man, this isn't really the place that I used to love. And where, going back to where you were like, these places in North Carolina still kind of have the essence, their
Yeah.
essence. I feel like Seattle has had lost that. And it's because big tech moved in a really big way.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you still find these pockets in Seattle. I'm sure it still exists. For me, when I go back to the places that I used to know when I was a college student and straight out of college, like those places have changed so much.
I definitely feel like, you know, we're not where big tech is here, like has put their stamp on Durham, but they are moving
Hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we have the RTP, the Research Triangle Park,
Hmm.
where there is a lot of like research and like innovation happening, which is like right outside of Durham and like right in between Raleigh and Durham, where the airport is. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I feel like Durham's a small, big city, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
geographically it's pretty big, but like you kind of know everybody because it's
Sure.
the small, like the center part, like the city part. The greater part of Durham County is like more rural, which that's also
Yeah.
kind of cool, like that you can still exist in that. I mean,
Yeah.
North Carolina is a red state, so,
Yes.
and it has
Yes.
its pockets. It has its pockets of blue dots. Um, yeah, I feel like North Carolina can sometimes be an overlooked state, and it has,
Yeah.
I think, a lot to offer. But yeah, I think when I first moved to North Carolina, I was definitely my little self felt very shocked,
Hmm.
but definitely influenced and nurtured who I am today.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to go put my feet in that specific river in the like in Cherokee because I was feeling disconnected
Mm.
from life.
Yeah. On this most recent visit when you were
Yeah,
there?
it's so cold.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. But there is, I mean, first of all, thank you so much for kind of like painting this picture of North Carolina for me and for anybody else listening because like I said, I was like, I've never been. I don't really know that part of the world at all. And the only things that I am really exposed to are what I see on media, you
Right.
know, and so I understand that every place has something different, you know, is very different from what the rest of us see and how it's depicted on whatever media we are intaking. And so, yeah, thank you. And the river thing, I mean, there is something too about like connecting with the waters around us, right? Whether it is a river or the oceans or lakes or anything, there is something there and it's like regrounding and this reconnection not just to the land, but I think like water connects everything,
Mm.
you know, and I feel like there is this power behind just being able to go, whether it's just, you know, soaking your feet in it or being able to jump into a body of water. Like there is something really powerful behind that and something that's just, I mean, essential to our existence as human beings on this planet. Yeah, it just happened again. Okay, now restarting again. But and again, I love, this is great because we got interrupted again through tech challenges, right, Areli, as you were about to introduce the new menu. It's called Fumbling Through Your Truth. And yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this is exactly that.
Hmm.
It's messy and it's sometimes doesn't look professional, but it's our truth and
Yeah.
our journeys. And I feel like fumbling to your truth is a term. It's something that came to me when I was talking to my friend Salim about like social media and
Mm.
like feeling the pressure to have the answers or to like have to voice your opinion on something. And I was just saying, like, I just feel like there's no room to fumble to your truth. Like, there's
Hmm.
no room to form thoughts in public or in the moment. Like, I feel like societally, like, we haven't created that space. And I think, like, that made me really want to dig deeper of, like, why. And I
Yeah.
started doing therapy about a year, well, no, definitely almost 2 years ago. And the way that I have like space and giving space and grace to unearth truths in that environment, I was like,
Yeah.
why can't we do this in real life and like in public? Like we
Yeah.
all know we have healing to do as a society.
100%.
All the isms, all the things like affect us on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, fumbling to your truth is like one of those things that is like not just about feeling like you can't speak in public without having the answer, or like vehemently saying something and truly believing in that and then completely contradicting yourself the next day. Like,
Yeah.
we're humans. And my
Yeah.
favorite, one of my favorite quotes that like Leon taught me was like, or shared with me was, our heads are round so that we can change our minds.
Hmm. Hmm.
um
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I feel, especially as like women and immigrants living in a different society, living in a different culture, ESL speakers, not feeling enough in either culture, being more of a soft spoken person,
Mm-hmm.
and feeling sometimes this pressure to not be that, to be more aggressive, to be more like loud. I'm like, that's just not me.
Yeah.
Like I can be powerful in a soft way too.
Yeah.
And I just, yeah, like just these pressures that are put upon us from society, and just kind of thinking, I'm also an overthinker. I'm a Taurus, and I feel like I constantly am thinking about all the different perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
which creates this like paralyzing effect, right? Like
Yeah.
to the point where
Yeah.
you're like overthinking from all the different perspectives, and you're like,
Oh
oh, I can
yeah.
see it from that perspective and this perspective, and like now I don't know what to do, and I don't know what's right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and I
um,
think so I feel like so much of what you're talking about right now too is connected to this again, not okay, so like not feeling like we as a society can kind of like yeah, make mistakes in front of people or publicly. Like we can't change our mind about things publicly. Um the overthinking, I totally relate to that so much. And I think like holding on to past mistakes is something that I do too. And then also this like the quiet being a quiet leader, right? Um it's all kind of centered around like, oh, we have been told that we have to show up perfectly, and like we've already made up our mind, we've already made decisions, we know how to do the thing, we know everything. And the whole process that actually leads to that has become invisible, and been really kind of the message has been that's the messy part that nobody wants to see, where it's like, but that's the messy part that makes everybody who we are.
yeah, and it's like so many people will resonate with it, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I think on one hand, it's like some people want to see that part because then you can resonate and you can like be like, okay, like it's not just me, right? You don't feel
Yeah.
alone in this process. And then some
Yeah.
people don't want to see the behind the scenes because they're dealing with their own mess and their
Yeah.
own chaos. And you're like, I didn't come here for this. I came to escape that chaos. Give me perfection. I feel like that's
Yeah.
often the case. I was thinking about just like one example of, and this isn't new, but like one example is just like how our industry values research, right? Like our industry values
Mhm.
research coming from scientists versus from like the actual producers who are doing the work
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis. And oftentimes those scientists don't look like the producers, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not black or brown or indigenous and or female. Like sometimes they are.
Mhm. Mhm.
I hopefully more and more they are, but they're still like light skinned, right? And so it's
Yeah.
like I feel like we have been taught and trained to continue to perpetuate in our brains. Like I feel like we're just intuitively like, mm, yeah, we're trained to take that information more seriously than when something comes out of, I don't know, like how many hiccups have we had in this podcast? Like,
Yeah.
how many people will think that's unprofessional or like not like,
Right.
oh, two brown women like doing
Yeah.
this thing, like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
skip, I don't know. I don't think that that's necessarily the reality, but that's what we've been trained to like
Yes.
expect. or like, yeah, just like that feeling of like the duck, right? Like the legs are like moving like this underneath the water, but like you're trying to keep this like very calm composure on the top.
100%. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, and
And
I think is like specifically talking about like the podcast field, it's so funny because podcasts now are like these huge crazy productions that some people are doing, and they build out studios and they have like multiple camera angles and all of this stuff, and I'm just like, damn, this is just supposed to be like two people having a conversation and sharing it with more people. Like, what, when did it become this whole production?
yeah,
Yeah. So, but anyway,
yeah.
yes, continue on.
Well, I just, yeah, it's all connected. And that's what I feel like fumbling to your truth is that like it really is everything everywhere all at once. Like it's
Yeah.
everything is connected to it all. Like imposter syndrome and the layers of that are all connected with fumbling to your truth. Like it's not just about trying to unearth those truths, but it's like also just trying to like break those like walls and barriers of experiences of like things that have been inculcated into us as since we came into this planet, because I feel like we come into this planet well equipped with all the tools connected to the like current and essence of life, and we come with our own essence that then
Mm-hmm.
gets blocked as we
Mm-hmm.
experience life. And I don't know, it's just I feel like there's so many analogies, right? Like it's like dialing in your espresso in the morning and then the customers start coming in and then you're chasing that perfect espresso for the rest of your shift. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of life essentially. It's like you come with this beautiful essence. Like humans, I feel like have infinite possibilities to be amazing creatures,
Yes.
and we just choose to vibrate on the lowest frequency and
Yeah.
want to have power and greed and like be rich, and that's what we value.
Yeah.
And I think we all try to figure out how to exist within the system. And yeah, it's all of this stuff like I feel like I reflect on, especially as our team is like predominantly all women, and we like all kind of have immigrant backgrounds. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like my partner who's a white man who grew up not in like a he didn't have it easy either, but
Mm-hmm.
he like can make things happen out of nothing, which is so admirable and so beautiful to see and to watch. And like sometimes has the question of like why are our cafe leads or like whatever, like why do you think that there's this like lack of confidence in our team members,
Mm-hmm.
or like in
Mm-hmm.
our leaders, in our leadership, and like it can come off as passivity,
Yeah.
but it's not passivity. It's just that we're like literally going through all of these layers before we get to a point of like being able to like make action happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And some women are a lot better at it than others, and some women are more healed than others, and like you don't necessarily see that happening, and like it's beautiful to see and it's like empowering to see, but we all have our journeys, and like there's no like timeline that is perfect for anyone. Like it's your timeline, like
Yeah.
it's not just like what we're experiencing in this lifetime, but it's also the generational shit that we're carrying, and like the
Yes.
lineage healing that that we're here to do.
Yes. Yeah. That, I mean, a few things there too. We're like one recently in a conversation with a white woman that she was just like, why don't you just like say it like this? Or why aren't you a little bit more forceful with XYZ? And I'm like, that's not how I am. And if I'm already asking the question to people, like, why should I have to adjust my approach to suit their needs, I guess. Like, this is my approach. I've already asked the question. If you're not going to respond, I'm not going to force you to, you know? But that was a really interesting thing. And then even just like the confidence piece there, right? I earlier this summer, shared this idea of having the confidence of a mediocre white man with my husband,
Uh,
who is also a white man. And I was like, yeah, this is something that like we tell ourselves. And he's like, what? And I'm like, oh, yeah. No, like women, all of the like Latina circles that I'm in, this is like a common phrase that people are like, no, just make sure you have the confidence of a mediocre white man when you go into X situation or whatever. And he had never heard of it before, which was hilarious to me because I just like assume everybody knows like this is the concept, right? And now, I mean, whenever I am doubting myself, he's like, don't forget, like, confidence of a white man, like, confident. I'm like, okay, yes, thank you now for being that voice. And it is like this wild thing that it's like, God, what we have been, yeah, like told to be a certain way, or, people have tried to fit us into specific boxes and shapes, and it doesn't feel right. We don't fit in there. And all of these little things that I think happen throughout our lives are these they're chipping away at this maybe inherent confidence that we have, but maybe it's just like the possibility of building that confidence in a way.
yeah.
Or also like maybe we do have confidence, but it shows up in a different way. And so you don't recognize it in us, and because we're not loud about it or aggressive or like rigid. And it's something that for me I really struggle to do when I'm being asked to show up in that way. Oof, it's hard. I can't, like, it's really hard for me to do that.
Yeah. It's also not my nature.
Yeah.
And I have so many like girlfriends that are that that is they have so much fire in them, and like it comes out
Mhm.
in that way, and I just don't feel like fire is my element. And
Mhm.
I feel like I'm more earth and water,
Mhm.
and that's how I move, and that's
Mhm.
how I process things. And like I love that that's how they communicate, and that's how they like process things and how they want to show up in life. But I feel sometimes the pressure from them to also be that, and I'm just like, I
Yeah.
hear you, but no, like,
Yeah.
that's just not
Yeah.
me. Like I get flashbacks from my dad being like, speak louder. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh God, it's
Yeah.
so hard. It's hard to speak loud. It's
Yeah.
like,
I mean, you saying that, I'm like, oh God, I just had a flashback to college where one of my professors was like, why don't you speak up more in class? And I was just like, oh, well. And it was one of those things that it's like, no, I do have thoughts and ideas and opinions on things that are being discussed, but this conversation in the classroom, there are people who are so much faster to like say something, where
mhm.
I'm the one that it's like, oh, I'm going to wait until a thought is complete by somebody else before I start to speak my own. And not everybody operates in that way.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes me a little bit longer to fully form my thought. And by the time I've gotten there, now we're on to a whole different topic. And like,
Yeah.
oh, let me just raise my hand and bring us back. Like, hey, you remember like 2 minutes ago when we were actually talking about this other thing? I wanted to share, and it was such a weird, like, again, here's this like middle-aged white man telling me like you should be speaking up more and you should be doing, I would expect you to be participating more in this class. And it was so interesting because that was a really fascinating juxtaposition for me, because right before I went to that professor's office, I was in a different professor's office he's Vietnamese French, and I had only taken one class from him, and I loved his class. And I Like, I soaked up so much from that. And I went into his office and we were chatting, and he was just like, "You're doing such a great job. Like, all of your comments, like, you're so thoughtful, blah, 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 blah." His like teaching style was very different. I think the types of students who are interested in his classes were very different too. And so I'm like, wow, that was such a great conversation. And then I go into my business professor's office and it's like, oh, weird. Like, and I am showing up in the exact same way in both of these spaces, but the perception of who I am and how I'm showing up is vastly different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like that was such a weird, like, it was so hard for me to hear that.
Yeah. I feel like um, that's bringing up some things for me in terms of like, oh God, yeah. I feel like I remember feeling like such a dummy. Like I'm such a nerd. Like I loved school. I loved getting good grades,
Yeah.
but I also like didn't have the best education in Cherokee High School. Um, and I recognized that when I was in like college, and one of my professors was like basically telling me that I had like remedial like writing skills, and I was like, oh my God. I just felt like such a dummy, and I was like, I took that to heart, but also like I think it stunted me from like wanting to get better. Like I to this
Yeah.
day I have like Leon like review my like any writing that I have, just because I feel like it's like not professional, it's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Um and yet, like, when I'm talking to my therapist, she's always like, "You're so poetic." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "That's not the word I would use for myself at all." But
I
it's
think
because I'm
I'm,
giving that space, right? Like, I'm giving that
yeah.
space to fumble to my truth, to like find my nuggets, to,
Yeah.
but it takes time. And like, on one hand, like, you find your speed, you find your people, you find like where you can thrive with how you are and how you exist and how you process. And yet there's something kind of beautiful to also trying on different speeds and challenging
Yes.
yourself to those speeds. For me anyway, I find it kind of fun. Um
Yeah. Well, I
and
think this also ties back to the style of like storytelling,
yeah.
right? Of indigenous peoples everywhere, where it's like, I mean, I read the things that you put out through your coffee company, and I even, as you were saying, the editing piece, I remember with the press release for fumbling fumbling to your truth about those drinks, like, there's a little note like, heavily edited and reviewed by so and so, like somebody on your team. And I was just like, that's cute. Like, I appreciate that nod to that person for doing that. And I feel like every time I read something from you, it is like so intentional, and that's what I get from it. And I would hope and I assume that that's what everybody who reads those things is getting from it. It's so intentional to who you are, how you've built this company, the team around you, and it's okay that it doesn't fit into whatever, like, quote unquote, like, westernized communication style or verbiage or whatever. It's like, what if we did take the moment to slow down a little bit with the way that we speak with each other and have conversations, instead of it being like so rapid fire, so, like, yeah, rigid and curated. I feel like we've
Yeah.
gotten used to so many things being so curated, and why can't we just give space to breathe in between? Which, this is what one of my goals is with this podcast. Like, our conversations just weave and wind wherever they do. And they're long. These podcasts are over an hour. And it's, for me, one of the things that folks come back to me with is like the guests, everybody's just like, wow, I I haven't like sat down and just had a conversation with a person like this in such a long time.
Yeah.
And like, how did we forget to do that? Like, why don't we prioritize that anymore, you know?
No, I 100% agree. Um, I do love the format of a conversation more than like an interview, or like I understand like the purpose of an interview when it's like more
Yeah.
targeted and like you're trying to get a message out. There's like a point of view that is being focused on. But I think even with that, like when it is more conversational, you get more truth out.
Yeah.
Because I feel like interviews require you to prepare and condense your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't think one is better than the other, but I do prefer like this more like, because I feel like I also learned so much from the other person who I'm conversing with, right? And
Yeah.
like it helps also reflect like oh, that's a really great way of phrasing that, or like of thinking about things that like I didn't really have the words for. And I think that's the other
Yeah.
thing. It's like vocabulary and like, I don't know, just like language itself, right? Like, language is such a fascinating thing, especially when it comes to like viewing how different cultures, like what different cultures value through their language. Like, I was learning like Yucatec Mayan in Chapel, like at UNC. Um, and they had like so many different ways of saying like one of something, like to
Huh.
count, because it's such an agrarian culture.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like
Yeah.
that's a value of theirs, like that is a very prominent part of their culture, is like the cycles of growth of plants and like
Yeah.
food. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same. Like every cult, like you said, like every language, yeah, hinting at like what do they value. And that also just reminds me in the Hawaiian language, in Olelo, there's like dozens of ways to describe clouds.
Oh my god, I love that.
And it's just because it's like, well, if they look this way and if they look that way. And I remember listening to somebody speaking about this, and they were just like, well, because the different words that we use to name the clouds, it's, yeah, the physical appearance, but then that's indicative of something that's going to happen with the weather, like the rain or winds or something. And you can, once you understand all of the different words we use for clouds, you then understand what is happening with the weather patterns around us. And that like dictates life, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
for Native Hawaiians. Like that is like, okay, that helped us understand when to do this one thing, when to know when maybe there was going to be a crazy flood happening and how to prepare for that, and all of these different things that we, yeah, it's just like, wow, what a beautiful way to communicate that, and the knowledge there, then that there's so much information there, right?
Absolutely. I feel like that reminds me too of like some of the like elements of like fumbling to your truth, was just like this disconnection to yourself and this disconnection to nature,
Mm-hmm.
because that is what like capitalism and like all the isms require of us
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
function, right? To keep
Yeah.
things going.
Yeah.
And so in a way, like this menu is kind of like a reconnection to yourself and to life, and a reconnection to nature. And like that I feel like is so beautiful and like so in tune with the current of life. And we have so much to learn from nature. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I go down these like crazy rabbit holes of thought sometimes, but this is something that a few months ago I spoke on a panel about like sustainability, you know, and so everybody goes to like the three main pillars of sustainability, economic or like financial sustainability, gosh, wow, I'm like, you know, environmental and social, I guess, like the human element. And
Yep.
I was just like, why are why are we separating environmental from humans? Like, why have we done that in this field of study of sustainability? Like, we are part of the environment. So if something is not sustainable for the environment, like it's not sustainable for humans either. And those are so interconnected. And it was something that in preparing for this panel conversation, I just went on like a whole deep dive of like humans and the environment, we're the same. Like, why have we created this separation? What is going on? And getting like way too like meta about it. But also I brought it up in that panel where I was just like, yo, why? I just want to like throw this out at everybody too. Like, why have we separated this? And like, let's stop thinking of humans as separate from nature and the environment and the planet, because like we are part of it. But as you said, it is something that like capitalism has been really good at making us believe we are separate from nature, because then I don't know, like we see it as just something that doesn't impact us, I guess.
Yeah.
And
Or that like our actions don't.
right,
It's so
right.
far removed that it's,
Yeah.
you're not being as intentional about your choices. And yeah, also just nature like reminds you to rest. Nature reminds you
Mhm.
to like reminds you of cycles, right? Like so does your body though. Like your body's
Oh, for sure.
will let you know. Like will let you know when you need to rest and when you need to thank God for our bodies, honestly. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
regardless of what kind of body you have, like they they are information and they tell us all the things we need to know.
100%.
And yeah, I
And
think I the disconnection to nature, I feel like, is one of those things that some people are feel very connected to it and like, they're like out in nature living their best lives. And I feel like I have this like energetic connection to nature, but physically, like I'm not a campy girl. Like I I have talked to my therapist about this. I'm like, I think I have a fear of like getting my feet in the soil. And it's like
mm,
it's not a like, ew, I don't want to get dirty. It's a I fear the like of what will happen, like the awakening, right? Like
mm,
I seek it and I want it, but I know that with that comes a lot of mm,
yeah.
losing parts of yourself that no longer serve you, and I just
Yeah.
don't know if I have the bandwidth and emotional capacity to deal with
Yeah.
that right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, do I choose to open this door or do I choose to just like wait a little bit on this? Because yeah, I mean, I know what you're explaining there, what you're describing. And it can be really scary because it's like, yeah, what am I about to like unleash here and open up, and am I ready for it? And I think whenever I've been presented with those points in my life, there becomes a moment where I recognize I'm never gonna be ready for it. And the question then becomes, am I willing to do it, or am I wanting to just stay?
Yeah, I definitely don't want to stay where I'm at. I know I want
Yeah.
the healing. I know I want like I'm seeking it. Like that's why I started going to therapy.
Yeah.
But it's still like one of those things where it's just like maybe the overthinker in me is like, are you ready for this? Like, are you really ready for this? Like right now in this moment, do you have the bandwidth? Do you have the capacity to, yeah, like I don't know. And maybe I'm over like making it a bigger deal in my head than it will be,
Yeah.
and it might just be this like really beautiful like transformation. But yeah, it's essentially your way back to yourself, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm seeking, and that's what I hope for everyone.
Yeah.
But it's scary, like to think about the life that you have lived up until now and how like embedded it is with being a cog in the wheel of the system
Mhm.
and this
Mhm.
empire. And there's a comfort to it too, right? Like that's what keeps us sleepy heads
Yep.
and like
Yep.
blissfully ignorant. But I don't know. Mother Nature's gonna Mother Nature, and I think generations are going to keep challenging, and it's gonna be a cyclical experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
100%.
know. Life life is so full,
It
and
is.
it's so full of so many
Yeah.
things, like,
Oh yeah.
and that's what
Yeah.
I just feel like, yeah, like there's just so much possibility within us if you look at nature. Like we are a part of nature, like you said, like we are a part of this environment. If you look around you, there's so much to marvel at. And like
Yeah.
we are essentially that. We just need to tap into it.
Yes. Yeah. And I want to say, there have been several times in my life where I've been in that same moment of like, oh, this is scary. I don't know if I want this. Like I don't know if I want to like unleash this right now. And every time my I what's the phrase that I was gonna say? Like, I'm so impressed by the way that I'm actually able to like move through the shit
Mm,
and take on that whatever the challenge or new thing or like yeah, whatever door I have cracked open. And even I'll say right now, like I've been having a huge year of transition, huge. And I have been so scared of it every step of the way. And every time I'm at like the next step, I'm like, fuck, man. I'm so impressed with the version of myself that's now allowed me to get here.
mm,
And like, I know whatever comes next, I'm going to be able to do it and get through it. And like, we are so resilient in a way that I don't think resilience needs to mean like harshness. And there's something there, right? Like, it's scary as fuck. And every time I've done something hard and scary, it's just like, damn, okay, you just did that.
yeah,
And the next thing is going to come eventually. And the previous challenges help you prepare and get through the next thing that's coming, right? The next step. And like, I don't know. It's a lot. And also, I mean, therapy is an amazing tool. And I have said this before on this podcast, and I'm going to say it like every time therapy comes up, like everybody should be in fucking therapy. I don't care if you don't think you should be, like everybody should be in therapy.
I
Because
agree. It's
yeah.
hard though, because you also have to find the right therapist for you.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And,
100%.
like, I'm so grateful for mine. Like, she's also Latina and, like, understands the immigrant, like, household. And
Mm-hmm.
that comes with that. And I think not having to explain myself, not having to
Yeah.
explain little things, like being able to have sessions in Spanglish, having, like, the ability to both feel when ancestors are in the room, like,
Mm-hmm.
and just like, yeah, just doing lineage healing and
Yeah.
having someone who is like holding that space. Like, I know she has the training and I know she has like some of the answers that I've been looking for. And it's like, I know all the answers that I need are within me, but she's like helping me get them out, right? Like, because
Yeah.
sometimes it's like,
Exactly.
there's something that's blocking me and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
like a systemic thing. I don't know if it's a lineage thing. Like, something is there and I need your help.
Yeah. Well, it's the tools, right? Like actually
Yeah.
having somebody who has the tools and the language around it and like the practices to help guide you to it. And yeah, I mean, maybe intuitively we know, but there's something about like, oh, having actually studied and fully kind of like fleshed out these different things, it helps a lot to just be led to that information instead of like trying to like find it yourself and figure it out. I love like the homework aspect almost. Like I don't know. I am given every time like, all right, this is what I want you to think about and do and blah blah blah. I'm like, great. Give it to me. Yes, I'm here to actually do the work and like make
Yeah.
shit happen. Yeah. And there's also a part of it too that's like very that's like giving you a lot of that's validating the
Yeah.
things that you struggle with too, where it's like, oh well, this makes sense that this is really hard or challenging because of XYZ, and here is that connection that you're like, oh great, I'm not just like completely fucked up, like there's a thing here, you know, and now that identifies the way to work through it. And like, okay, how do we, yeah, just like work through this and make it easier. And so yeah, with that too, I also want to say there is a woman, Joan Obra, who she did an episode in the first season. She was the last guest episode, and she also gifted everybody like a, oh gosh, like a trance meditation recording. And
Nice.
it's still linked in my Instagram bio, so I like check that out, because her whole story is about like coming back to her true self and like unconditional love for herself, also through, you know, the experience of being a child of immigrants and all of these things. And like, yeah, that was a whole, just, she's incredible too, in the way that she just like guides people and holds space for people. And so I would recommend checking that out.
I definitely will. Thank you. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like oftentimes, like, I don't get to have these types of conversations that often. Like, I'll have them with like Leon, and like one of our good friends, David, like will really loves to get into that with me. But it's like, I don't know, it's just so nice to be able to have that and like to be able to share that in therapy as well. But then like
Mm-hmm.
she's like, I've been hearing this a lot from other clients, or like, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she's like, I'm like, oh, cool, cool, cool. So I'm just like tapped into the collective. Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I have no
And
original
also again,
thoughts.
no,
I'm
no,
kidding.
but it's like that reminder of like, okay, this is all interconnected and we all are. And how, of course, there are so many of us who are experiencing similar things and struggling with similar things, because like, yeah, if we're fucking paying attention, like we're connected, you know, if we're actually tuned in, then we are going to be experiencing a lot of the same things. And I know that even like I've read, it's been a while, but I remember reading just your even like thought process behind little waves and
Mm,
the like connection through the little currents that we put out,
yeah.
and how there is just that ongoing ripple effect with everything that we do. And so again, like the way that you have intentionality through the way that you show up and what you put out there, it is palpable. Like it's something I pick up on. And you used this phrase earlier, you know, also like everything, everywhere, all at once. And like, I know that everybody's like, oh, that's the movie. It's like, God, yeah, but the message behind that movie. And it's a phrase that I've like thought of a lot in,
Yeah.
I would say, especially in like recent times. And it just really, it does a really good job of describing, I think, the way that I feel about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And it being kind of like the intensity of everything, and also the recognition that it is everything and everyone everywhere, We are all connected by these invisible threads in weird ways that we don't even understand, even with people who we don't like, you know? And if only we could go through life, like if everybody could go through life with that understanding, like how fucking different would this world be? If we could just have, if everybody had that moment and the space to think about the world and each other in that way too. Like, how would that change the way that we show up every day, and how we behave and how we treat each other and everything around us?
Yeah, I think it all does start with the inner work, honestly. Like
Yeah.
I've always I've always believed that, even honestly, like I remember having that thought as a 5-year old, like just feeling
Right.
like if we all worked on ourselves, like the world would be a much better place.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we all healed ourselves, like
Yeah.
did the work, because the idea of like truly loving yourself, like I feel like for a long time that idea like felt very like superficial and like very like trendy for Instagram, but like oh man, like being able to hold space and hold grace and like hold compassion for others is so much easier than doing that for yourself.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I feel like that's the work, is like getting
Yeah.
to a point where you can do that, because then that's how you show like people how to treat you. That's how you show yourself how to treat others.
Yeah.
And I think there are definitely people who treat others much better than they treat themselves,
Yes.
me included. But I think it's also just a reflection of where you are. And it's not a judgment, right? It's just like a reality. It's a fact. It's a truth of like, that's just where you're at. But like recognizing and doing something about it. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
just connect back to yourself and your true essence and life.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You
We,
mentioned
yes.
a
Mhm.
few times like some of the writings and stuff, and I do want to give a shout out to Leon because he does like 90% of our messaging. He tries to get me to do more, but I'm just like I'm like no one wants to hear what I have to say. Also, I'm
Oh,
like lazy and I have a hard time like putting thoughts to paper. And I think
yeah.
that's another reason why it's for me like this is such a nicer way of expression, is like having conversation and
Yeah.
like kind of meandering through the
Yeah.
thoughts to get to the nuggets, which
Mhm.
doesn't always necessarily land well when you're trying to get like a beautiful message out. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, hats off to Leon then too. I know he's doing a great job. I mean, yeah, but it's like a team effort, right?
it
And
is.
so I enjoy both. Like I enjoy the writing thing, and again, just I enjoy conversations.
Yeah,
There's something, like you said, the meandering, like there's something to that, to those yeah, the spaces in between where you can see like the wheels turning, or you can hear the wheels turning and something happening, and it's the way that our brains work, right?
yeah,
Versus most of the time when we're reading something that's been written, like it's gone through edits and drafts and
yeah,
re-edits and being quote unquote perfected. um and even with that, like there, yeah, I'm learning a whole, and I have been learning like a whole different approach with that too, where it's like, just okay, let there be typos, let there be mistakes, let there be like incomplete thoughts maybe, and um how can we maybe shift a little bit the perspective of it being incomplete, like what, that's fine, where we are incomplete today, and so with that too, Areli, with all of the tech issues and everything too, we've been chatting for like almost 2.5 hours, and I want to be cognizant of your time, and Also the time of day for you on the East Coast. And I also just want to say, like, I appreciate, yeah, thank you so much for like sharing the way that you have and the things that you have, because yeah, just like setting the scene for us in Cherokee and North Carolina in general, and like your childhood, and then just this whole, I guess, like insight into the way that your brain works. I totally relate to it. And I'm like, oh my God, you are somebody who I could just go on these random, weird, weird deep dive conversations, because my brain just like goes in these weird fucking like, to me, I'm like, this is a weird place. How did I end up here? But the way that I think about things sometimes, and like, I love finding the people who I can have those kinds of conversations with.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the opportunity to do that very often anymore. And so, yeah, thank you. And thanks for just like going on this whole journey and rolling through all the weird tech things that happened.
Happy to provide learned experiences.
Yes, yes. Every time, like, again, I told Areli this when we were working through one of the tech issues. I was just like, sometimes a weird tech thing happens and I'm like, oh, this has never happened before. Cool. I'm going to like be prepared though the next time it does, and be able to like get ahead of it instead. So yeah, that's been good too.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you for hosting and having a platform to have this style of conversation. I'm really excited to go back and like listen to. Now I have a few traveling days, so I'm like I know what
Yeah,
I'm going to be listening to, so I appreciate that.
awesome. Oh my gosh,
And I
yes,
yeah,
thank you.
I feel like I definitely resonate when I hear other women like tell their stories and like yeah, just I want to know those inner like the inner depth thoughts, right? Like
Yeah,
how people's brains work and like yeah, I don't want perfection. I want to know like the messy stuff.
yeah.
I feel like that's I don't know. That or give me all the ghost stories.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I like that a lot. um Ghost stories. Okay, this is what Areli wants next time.
Yes, for the spooky version episode in October.
Yeah, amazing. Well, yes, safe travels. Have so much fun. Have
Thank
so
you.
much fun. Chiapas is so beautiful. And
I'm
yeah, I hope you
excited.
have
I've
a lot
never
of fun.
been.
It's so cool. San Cristobal is an awesome, like, kind of a city. It's a large town. It's so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I had the opportunity to spend Semana Santa there
Oh,
like several
nice.
years ago, and it was so much fun. And I would really love to go back during a quieter time of year, but that was a really, really beautiful place to spend that time. So yeah, I am excited for you for that trip. I hope everything also at home just like wraps up and is easy for you to just be like, great, I'm going to be gone for a little bit now, and everything is in everybody else's hands.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it's a whole
Full
process
trust.
always.
Full
Yes.
trust there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Well, thank you.
yes. Yeah. Thank you, Areli, for being here. And thank you for listening. My name is Madeline Longoria Garcia, and these are our other stories. You can listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Antenna Pod, YouTube, and everywhere else and anywhere else that you do your listening. Please reach out via social media, DMs, comments, all of those things. Would love to hear from you. Thanks for being here. Have a great day.